Hi guys, and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be doing a similar thing as we did the other day with the plate meta build, except we're going to be doing it for leather this time. We're going to follow a similar format, just go through everything. It was received really well, so let's get straight into it, shall we? So the first thing we're going to look at is we need to find leather first. We'll look at helmets first. We're just going to go through each helmet, the base ones, the royal ones, the stalker, and obviously the artifacts, and just which ones are the meta ones currently and what they do. So we're going to start with the assassin first, and actually we should probably look at the higher tier ones so we can see the rest of the abilities. So we're going to start with the assassin one. We've got energy regain, which is on every helmet, so pretty generic. It doesn't really get used in PvP unless you're like a healer or someone's really mana draining. You've got Howl, slows enemies in a cone in front of you by 30% and also reduces their attack speed by 15% for 21 seconds. That's a long time. Does a little bit of damage, it's not much. It doesn't get used at all. I think it's underrated. It's potentially good for kiting, but I see why it doesn't get used. It doesn't really have a place in the meta at the moment for what it's trying to do. You also then get the meditation, which is while channeling, all spells on cooldown will recover much faster. It takes 2 seconds to channel and reduces cooldowns by up to 10 seconds. It's actually 12 seconds in total because the 2 seconds you also take to channel. This is really good for anyone that wants to try and use their big hit twice. So things like carrying callers, they can use this from range, meditate it to get it back faster. They get their next one really quick afterwards. Daggers used to do it where they used to come in, do 3 Qs, their slit throat, do this, and then just keep the Qs up and they get another slit throat up really quickly. So it's good if there's something you have to use twice really quickly. Other than that, like, it has a place in the meta for doing a lot of damage, but other than... I've seen some tanks try to play it actually, thinking about it. Like, if you've got a big CC or a big engage, having this to reduce it isn't potentially a bad thing. It's definitely very good and underrated as well. Not a lot of people are running it for how good it could be. Just to go over the passives, obviously all the passives are the same. You get the 3.5% attack speed, the 5% regen to hit points and energy, and the 2.5% cooldown reduction. This is very good and underused as well, but we'll go into that a little bit further on. You then have the Hunter helmet, a magical barrier which reduces your armor and magic resist by -55, so it does actually go negative, but also reflects and slightly amplifies incoming damage. Terrible. Do not use it, because if a whole team, so if you take 100% of your health, right, their whole team's going to take like 25% of their health. So they could 100 to 0 you, but their whole team's going to take 25%. Still not worth it because you're dead. Like, anything that increases your or reduces your armor and magic resist just isn't good. Yeah, honestly, it's not very good. The fact it reflects and slightly amplifies, like, it would have to massively amplify increase incoming damage to make it worth for me. But it's also a minute cooldown and only lasts for 5 seconds, so I just don't see this helmet being very good in any situation, to be honest. You've then got the Mercenary Hood, which is the cleanse. This has recently been buffed that you can use this while in CC. That makes it good. Anyone who's played WoW, this is your trinket. Removes any movement impairing effects and debuffs on you and allies in a close proximity, but the close proximity is actually quite big. It's also only on a 20-second cooldown with no cast and no energy cost, and you can use it while you're in stun. Like, it's really good. And it only has a 20-second cooldown, but it doesn't remove dots. So things like curse staffs are still pretty beast with it. But you can. So something that people are underusing this with is using this with the curse staff arcane beam, the one that does the armor pierce. Things like minus resistances where people are debuffing you, you can actually cleanse all of that with cleanse. It's really strong and people underuse it. Definitely one to keep an eye on now. You've got the Royal Hood, which is the sort of base one with the upgraded sigils. That does Growing Rage. As long as you don't deal damage, you keep stacking up damage at an increase of 10% per second, up to 6 stacks in total. It's good for the massive one-shots if you can time it right, but other than that, I just don't think it's very good, to be honest. You have to time it perfectly, and even if you time it perfectly, it's still not guaranteed to go off every time. it just isn't very good, and a 40-second cooldown for one hit isn't just worth it in my opinion. It's just not very good. You've then got the Stalker Hood, which is Mortal Agony. Your damage is increased by 15% for 4 seconds. So this is a flat 15% buff to all damage. And enemies in a 6 meter radius around you whose health is below 50% will have their resistances reduced by 15%. Pretty strong to like get that last couple of hits on someone if you're a melee. Very underused, I think. Things like a Clarent Blade or daggers could run this really well if they're just looking for that last big hit. But it does have an energy cost, which is weird to see on a helmet. But it only has a 15-second cooldown as well, so you could use this a lot. Very underused and very, very good. Then we've got the Hellion Hood. Place a smoke bomb under your feet. You're invisible inside the smoke bomb, and all targets, you, allies, and enemies inside the smoke are silenced. The smoke has a 6 meter radius and lasts for 5 seconds. It's good and it's bad. It's not... So people... I first thought of this and thought of the smoke bomb in WoW. Like, you could run up to someone, drop a smoke bomb, finish them off without their allies being able to help. But it doesn't work like that because everyone inside is silenced, so you can only auto attack. Plus, anyone in their right mind is going to run out of a 6 meter radius smoke bomb. It isn't exactly massive. So I think it's definitely not very good for what it could be. Next time we're going to move to the jackets. So first of all we'll go over the base skills. 8% attack speed, 2.5% regen, and 5% cooldown reduction. Again, very strong. You can actually get 10% if you use cooldown on all 3. That's pretty damn strong, to be honest. So you've got Men Wounds, which is on all chests. You've got Inferno Shield, which is on all leather chests, which is a resistance increase and reflects 50% of damage back. That's pretty damn strong. I actually like running Inferno Shield just as a spell in itself. I think it's pretty strong. It's got an energy cost of 26 and a minute cooldown, so it's a long cooldown, but it's a really strong defensive. You've also got Ambush, which was recently nerfed. You're turn invisible for 8 seconds. Invis now stops you being targeted by your own group as well as the enemy group. You basically become invisible to everyone. Your first attack out of Invis will have increased damage. The longer you stay invisible, the higher the damage buff, up to a maximum of 50% will be. So this was good for daggers that typically got 3 stacks, went to stealth, waited for the full stack and then come out and had that bigger opener. And it still is good for things like that, but it is a lot weaker than it was now that you also can't be healed in Invis. So people used to use it as an escape, now you kind of can't. So it's been nerfed a little bit. It's still very much in the meta. It's still very strong. It still has the ability just to stealth and leave. But yeah, you also can't run too far away. So if you're running this with a sprint, you will just de-stealth if you run too far. And from what I understand, there's no indicators of that, how far that range is. We then got Hunter's Jacket. I love this jacket and no one uses it. So obviously everything else is the same. We've got Haste, increases normal attack speed by 60% and damage by 10% for 8 seconds. Any auto attack build, swords, forge hammers, even daggers can use this. Like single target daggers, single-handed dagger that normal one can use this really well. 60% attack speed is nothing to sniff your nose at, and just a 10% damage buff isn't bad either. It's got 24 energy cost and a minute cooldown, so it's not great for them to, but like just doing a good amount of damage off that is really underrated. People do underrate auto attack damage. You've then got Mercenary Jacket, the strongest 1v1 build dual thing going. It's just ridiculous. Every time you deal damage to an enemy, you heal yourself for 42. Obviously this is varied on the item power from the weapon, so I'm using the tier 8s as the example, so 42 is just the base tier 8 one. Lasts for the lower of 10 seconds or 15 hits, so whichever comes first. Typically if you're running this with something that can trigger the 15 hits. Again, minute cooldown, 26 energy cost, so they're all the same at the moment, all the base ones. And it can turn into something like 660 healing. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's so underrated. Things like carrying callers, if you get a 5-man bleed on them with your E, you can pop this and you're just going to heal to like full. Honestly, it's so strong. Very underrated for anything outside of duels. Duels, a lot of people run this. Outside though, if you're getting targeted, even if you turn around and pop this and get 10 hits, 420 health is a lot of health just to have for yourself, to be honest, that you can generate yourself. We've then got Royal Jacket, which is Royal Banner. This is potentially crazy ridiculous, but people don't use it for a reason. So carry the Royal Banner, boosting battle morale. Cooldown modifier is reduced by 100%. That's right, there is no cooldown on your skills. And normal attack speed is increased by 30% for 1 second for you and up to 5 allies in a 5 meter radius. So it's a very small radius, which means you need to group up. And it's only for 1 second, which means you effectively get 1 skill without a cooldown then. So daggers could get double E's, Curse Staff could get double bomb, which is ridiculous by the way. There's a couple of different things. You have to be so coordinated to use this properly. Like, I would never use this with a pug. It's pretty decent, but again, it's the right sort of situation times. It does also work on armor items as well, so seeing the Stalker's Jacket, that's actually reminded me. You can use this with a Stalker's Jacket to get 2 up, and I haven't tested the interaction whether you actually get 2 buffs. That would be pretty ridiculous if you did though. But what you could do is do like the Stalker Jacket, this pops it, Stalker Jacket presses it, and then have a Stalker Jacket to follow straight after, which means you get like double the duration on it, which is really strong. Now going into the Stalker's Jacket. So Stalker Jacket unleashes an electric field around you, dealing 70 damage twice a second. So that's 140 DPS to every enemy around you for 8 seconds. That is ridiculous. Now, when using this, people will kite out of it, people will disengage you, or just disengage themselves. There's so much people do to get out of this because it does a lot of base damage. So don't be fooled by seeing big numbers and going, okay, I'm just going to pop this and everyone's going to die, because people will get out of it. They will do anything they can to get out of it. But it is a very good zoning tool as well, so it is very much in the meta and very much something that people should be looking at, to be honest. We've then got the Hellion Jacket. A 7 meter radius life-stealing aura surrounds you for 6 seconds. Enemy inside receive 53 damage per second, and it's based off their health as to how much healing you'll get. It lasts for 6 seconds and it ticks once a second. So you get 6 ticks at potentially 49 per tick. Again, similar. It's a mixture of the Mercenary Jacket and the Stalker's Jacket. It's good, but people are going to kite you out of it, and it's only really effective if they've got low health. So, I mean, it's good if you're getting in the middle. Things like Clarent Blades could potentially run this for a little bit of survivability, but I mean, it's not great. And again, they're going with a 28 energy cost and 1 minute cooldown. I believe the Stalker Jacket's the same. 29, oh no. And that's 50 seconds, but yeah, it's okay. We're going to move on to the boots then. So boots are the awkward ones because everyone's going to look at the first one and go, oh, that's the best. So we're actually going to skip the Assassin Shoes for now. I'll go into them later. But first of all, we're going to go over the base skills. 118 kg carry load, obviously this is still based on it being tier 8. 3.5% attack speed, 5% energy and hit point regen, and again another 2.5% cooldown reduction. So that's 10% if you wore all 3 leather pieces and use the cooldown thing, which is pretty strong. So the first one is run. You get these on every boots. The second one is refreshing sprint. You get these on all leather boots. Increases your move speed by 96% for 3 seconds and reduces your cooldown slightly. Pretty strong. I think it works out to about 6 seconds of cooldown reduction. It also works on the cooldown of the boots as well, so the boots only ever have a 24-second cooldown. And then you get Rush, which is specifically for the Hunter's Shoes, which is 120% for 3 seconds. Pretty decent, but I would never use that over Refreshing Sprint. Refreshing Sprint's just too strong. You then get Mercenary Shoes, which has everything else exactly the same except this. You stay invisible as long as you keep channeling for 10 seconds. While you're invisible, your move speed keeps increasing by 10% per second and stacks up to 10 times. You keep the movement speed for 5 seconds after you leave invis. So there's a couple of things about this. Before the patch, this was really strong, because what you could do is invis and let your healer heal you up. Now you can't. You actually invis to everybody. So you need to make a conscious choice if you're going to use this, that you can't be healed anymore and you can't lose any more health. Well, you can be AoE'd, but you can't be targeted. And you have to channel it as well, so you can't even move around while doing it. I just don't think these have a place in the meta now. They potentially did before the patch, but now I just don't see the point of them, to be honest. You then got Royal Shoes. Jump to a target location. While you're in the air, you are invulnerable to all damage and all crowd control effects. This is good. because you can jump through things like wind walls. This is why I was waiting to see this for the assassin boots. So you've got this one. Assassin shoes have dodge roll to the cursor's position. You're invincible during the roll, which is exactly the same effect as the royal shoes. And after the roll, your move speed is increased by 40% for 4 seconds. So it's a 5 second longer cooldown, but you also get a move speed buff after that. That's pretty big, to be honest. That's why I would always recommend the assassin shoes over the royal ones. People have asked me for my opinion on both. I think assassin's just every time better, to be honest. Then got the stalker shoes. Teleport to the cursor's position increases your damage and heal power by 15% for 4 seconds. Pretty good if you're going for the one-bow, one-shot combos, but other than that, I don't see the point in having the blink, to be honest. Then got Hellion. They need to make these slightly shorter. Mark an enemy to sacrifice the demon. After you mark the enemy, you will dive into the demon realm, making you invincible and invisible for 2 seconds. Pretty strong, although you have to remember that invisible now means you can't be targeted by your healers. After you reappear, you directly dash towards your victim, knocking it back slightly and dealing a small amount of damage. The demonic power will reduce the victim's healing received by 40%. This is on a 30-second cooldown and has an 11-meter range, which is the same range as the staffs that cast, like fire staff, frost staff, etc. So really strong for diving into like someone who's out of position. You can dive into them with a 2-second delay, get a 40% healing reduction on them, and you just pound them, and they can't be healed up as quickly as they could be. Very, very good. Doesn't get used because obviously it's a hard artifact to get. However, if you can get one, this is definitely worth giving a go. And I think that is it, guys. So this is the leather one. If you have any more opinions or anything you want to ask, please leave them in the comments below. The next one is going to be cloth. After cloth, we're going to start going through weapons. So we're going to do one weapon type a day. So we'll start with one of the swords, start with one of the bows, start with one of the staffs, and we'll keep rotating like that. But yeah, guys, if you like this, like, comments, anything you want to say down below. I love reading what you guys say, and I try to reply to everything. Obviously, subs, they help out massively. We're almost at 200 subs in less than a month. That is amazing. Like, it's just unheard of. Check out the Twitch channel. You know all the usual stuff, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.